the Pope is saying today is he's trying to simplify the annulment process. He's trying to make it more humane. He's talked about the need to welcome people who were divorced back into the church. And the way we do it in the Catholic Church is through annulment.
It's no secret that Pope Francis is bucking the system. A system that's been in place for hundreds of years ensures that the Catholic Church walks in lockstep from Rome to the smallest village in the tiniest country. But as the Pope gets closer to his American visit, there are rumblings of dissent from Rome, muted anger at his new take on policies, changing the way the Church does business, and very likely changing the power structure that many simply don't enjoy being toyed with. Let's dig into the issues at hand with the Rome correspondent at the National Catholic Register, Edward Pentin. Edward, always a great opportunity to get to talk to you, and I think on this one, we really seem to be hitting a wall almost, because in the Washington Post today, a discussion that talked about conservative dissent is brewing inside the Vatican. Here we've got somebody saying that the Pope does not have the power to change teaching or doctrine. It almost seems as if there's a warning shot being fired at the Pope saying, you can't do all this that you may want to do, and we're going to hold your feet to the fire.
Yes, I think that's right, Ed. There is certainly a certain amount of discontent among sort of rank and file Catholics, practicing Catholics who go to church every Sunday and try to uphold the Church's teaching. There's a sense that perhaps the Pope is not on their side in some senses, and that he's trying to push the boundaries and trying to extend this hand of mercy to those outside the Church, and those within it are feeling a little neglected, to say the least. I think there's a certain sense of discontent. But that's not to say that they disagree with what the Pope's doing necessarily, but there is a sense that perhaps he's not defending their corner, if you like, so much as could be, and that he's sort of pushing the boundaries to such an extent that they're concerned that, you know, the long-held doctrines and traditions of the Church are sort of under threat.
Edward, could it just be the fact that we're dealing with an old guard here? They have been used to doing things in this way for, I said, hundreds of years, let's just say thousands of years, and there quite frankly are some people who are powerful within the Vatican who just don't want the Pope to infringe on their power. This seems like much more than just theology. This seems like plain old-fashioned political power at work.
Well, that could have been the case a few years ago, but actually for now, I think the feeling is that those in power in the Vatican are the ones who are pushing this agenda, pushing the Church to trying to get it sort of modernized, as they say, and that is upsetting others in the Church, some senior figures within the Church who feel that, as I said, that he's going too far with it. I've just written a book, actually, Ed. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's called The Rigging of a Vatican Synod, in which I discuss this synod on the family last year, in which these issues were really threshed out, and these concerns were aired in a very open and public way, because you had these two sides, if you like, coming to blows: those pushing for change, and those were very much within in the ranks of the Vatican. They were running this synod, and those who were trying to resist it, such as, for example, the American Cardinal Raymond Burke and others who were very unhappy with this. So this has been going on for some time, and this, as I put in the book, there was a lot of effort by those in charge in the Vatican to try and use rather heavy-handed tactics to try and push through this sort of modernist agenda. So there is a lot of concern, sort of growing concern, I would say, among those who are trying to hold fast to tradition.
Okay, let's talk about tradition here for a moment, because the latest word has the Pope basically simplifying the rules on marriage annulments. You get divorced, but you had to have it annulled in the Church. And now we have a recent Pew Research poll. 6 out of 10 Catholics think that the Church should allow those who are remarried without an annulment to receive communion. Okay, we've got a couple of things at work here. Is it not just possible that this Pope is looking at a younger generation, a newer generation, and is saying, look, if we don't change, if we don't modify these rules, make it easier for people to be Catholics, they won't want to be Catholics anymore. We'll lose a lot of these people. We will no longer be the religion in power around the world, if you will.
Well, I think the critics will say that the Pope's coming from the wrong angle, the wrong direction, and that the problem really is not that the Church isn't catering for these people, but the Church isn't teaching them enough, and that catechism and the church's doctrine isn't being spread in the most effective way.
Well, that's
and
just it. Do they
people-
need to teach them a new way? Do they need to teach them in a modern way and not just lean back on old dogma?
Well, the church, I mean, the traditionalists will argue that the church's teaching is perfectly acceptable and perfectly effective and relevant to today. It's just not being taught properly because they say that those bishops and those leaders in charge don't necessarily feel it should be taught, and perhaps they don't even believe it. So that's the argument, that it's not being taught enough with conviction, and that there is all the answers are there in the doctrine, but they're just not being effectively taught.
Edward, I got about 30 seconds left. The Pope is coming to America. Donald Trump has made a lot of statements about immigrants. The Pope certainly could be one of those. This is his first time here. He has a lot of those immigrants on his side. Do you think the Pope will go at Donald Trump and will try to make a true political statement when he meets with Congress?
It's very difficult to say, Ed. I mean, I think the Pope will be very diplomatic, but I think he will speak up. He does like to ruffle a few feathers and make a few waves, and I think he might say a few things in Congress which won't go down well with certain groups. But then that's what a Pope always does. He comforts the afflicted and afflicts the comfortable, and I think that's what he'll do in the United States. I think he'll be careful, though. I don't think he'll want to upset too many people, but he will get his point across, and I think immigration.
I think that's very fair. I think he will get his point across. It seems to me that this is what this Pope enjoys doing. Edward Pentin, we enjoy having you on the show. Thanks so much. Coming up next, telling it like it is, something else we must now all promise to do after every Labor Day. Stay with us.